It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again, time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 347. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Drawing gloves are weird.
Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Triangles are weird.
Tam.
Hello.
Phelan.
This intro is weird.
So, drawing gloves always make me think of, like, a condom for your pinky finger.
I mean, mine also at least goes over my ring finger.
Okay. Yeah, the one that I have, I think, is just my palm-ish area and my pinky finger.
So this is like archery gloves, but on the other two fingers?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's so you don't,
So you don't smear your tablet.
I got it.
Yeah.
So, sorry we didn't have a show last week.
Things happened. Lots of things actually happened.
Lots of things happened. I was the beginning of it, but, like, lots of things happened. This week things have settled down more for me. Phelan, I'm glad you're not actually seriously ill.
Me too.
Because Phelan went to urgent care.
I have eye drops. My eye is much better now.
Yay.
Now we have a sick 3-year-old, but it's mostly just a fever, and he gets droopy when the ibuprofen wears off.
Oh.
So he has had a rapid test. It is not the COVID.
Okay, good.
So assuming the fever breaks, by Monday, he goes back to school on Tuesday.
So, topic that got bumped from a couple shows, R-Type.
R-Type. Fly around in space. Shoot weird biomechanical aliens from the future that might be your fault. I think Ash probably knows more about how this game came to be than I do. It just kind of like... I became aware that R-Type Final 2 was a thing that was being made and then had been released. And I spent far too much time playing R-Type Final back when, the PlayStation 2 was the height of technology.
It was a Kickstarter. And, first of all, Final 2 makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But also, R-Type Final came out 18 years ago.
Yeah.
I did not know. It's apparently been kind of up in the air who even held the rights to the series or something. I don't know.
I believe that.
Well, it was originally Ireme, right? And I don't know who bought Ireme.
They had gone. They have been for a long time. Basically, R-Type Final was their swan song.
Yeah, R-Type Final is the reason that I currently have a PlayStation 2 emulator installed on my PC. So I don't have to, actually break out and set up the real thing. I only have so many input ports on my television.
But yeah, apparently a new company formed up with some of the previous Irem developers and got the rights and made R-Type Final 2 after putting it on Kickstarter. It was, if I remember correctly, not even terribly late as far as Kickstarter games go.
It almost makes me wonder if at one point it was started.
If maybe they already had something.
They had a code base to work off of or something. Yeah.
It's possible. I mean, also, it's technically incomplete.
Sure. There's a lot of game for a game that's not done.
There is. But, there are 101, ships. And I think something like 40-something of them are in the game currently. The rest are being released as, in DLC packs.
The dangers of stretch goals.
Yeah. Well, I mean
that's not even that.
Yeah.
R-Type Final did this.
Yeah, it's the same set of ships. Because that's the thing. If this game, R-Type Final 2, if you were hoping for something new and different, this is not that game. There is very little new in this game. You can actually name your pilot, you can put stickers on your ships, that's about it.
I mean, the stages are new.
I mean,
the main game stages are new.
The stages are technically new. I've been in a couple of stages now where I was like, okay, no, wait a minute. I have played this stage before. I remember this. And it wasn't as long as the stage that I was remembering from R-Type Final, but it was the same stage.
Well, the thing I'm noticing is that they have the main game stages, and then they have the throwback stages.
Yeah, I haven't
And the
even
throwback
tried any
stages are less fair.
I need to try some of the throwback stages because, yeah, the main game stages. As someone who has burned the original R-Type final into my muscle memory, the main game stages seem somewhat short and easy.
I did not play R-Type Final a whole lot because my game of that era was Gradius 5. That game is burned deeply into my memory.
Yeah, like these even though they're not the exact same stages, the stages follow the same basic pattern as the original R-Type final. There is the opening stage, there is the flying around a giant battleship stage. There is the stage what you can hit different buttons at the end of the stage to change what stage you'll get later on. And in general, like the battleship stage in particular, like it's the flying around a battleship stage. It has basically the same end boss as the one from R-Type Final. So the battleship core moving in and out and shooting bullets at you. But to get there is a lot shorter than the original R-Type Final stage. Like, it's a lot less complicated. And I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. Like, part of me wishes that it was... I guess, part of me wishes it was something actually new. But, I don't know. Part of me is okay with not spending as long, going through that stage when the way this game is designed, it is intended that you will be playing all of these stages many, 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 many times.
Yes.
Let me tell you how much I appreciate the building of new ships being based on collecting enough of a resource instead of spending X amount of time in a previous ship. Because it means that I can just fly the ship that I want to fly, and once I have my beautiful, beautiful Eclipse, I can just fly that forever.
Again, almost all of this is new to me because, again, Gradius 5 was my shooter of that era. Like, I'm used to playing... Was there an R-Type on the SNES?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's the one I played the most of.
Yeah.
I mean, it was basically just a port of R-Type 1 that was prettier, if I remember correctly.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, if you have not yet unlocked the Albatross has the Tentacle Force, and the Tentacle Force is amazing. And then the Eclipse is the improved version of the Albatross.
If you ever want to play the 8-bit era shooter games, though, you want to load up an emulator and play the PC Engine versions. They are, without a doubt, the best versions.
I thought you were going to say the arcade versions.
No, I mean, I actually like the PC Engine version better than the arcade versions, because the PC versions have much better soundtracks.
Yeah,
PC Engine.
That makes sense. But yeah, if you like R-Type, if you like that style of game, R-Type and Gradius, if you enjoyed R-Type Final and want more of that, like this is a good R-Type game.
So another game that was played this week, Grace, you have returned to Subnautica, right?
Yes. So one thing that happened recently is that the official launch of Subnautica Below Zero, so the sequel, was just recently, and I realized that I had never actually completed the quote-unquote story of the original game. So I went back and ended up just mostly following a walkthrough, doing a little bit of the exploring on my own, but I guess I have some mixed feelings because, I mean, if people have been listening for a long time, because this game has been out for a while, you may know how much I love Subnautica and will just happily swim around in the beautiful ocean forever. But I hadn't completed the story, largely because I really like being chill and floating around in a beautiful ocean with weird sea creatures. And I don't so much love worrying about giant monsters that are trying to eat me and or shoot fireballs at my head. So it was interesting to get over that and treat it like a game and not like just a relaxation engine, basically. But it was worth it.
To be clear, it still functions as a relaxation engine, right? It just also has a plot that involves those things.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, at any
Leviathans
time.
are terrifying.
Yes. At any time, I could go back to my sweet, sweet sea base and just putter around and swim and build stuff, and life is good. But yeah, I pushed through the story, and I think one thing that was sort of frustrating is that things are sometimes slightly too hidden. So if it hadn't been for looking at walkthrough stuff, I probably would have missed some things and not realized that I needed to interact with them or just find a different entrance, things like that. So that's a little frustrating. And the other piece I realized as I was doing this was that it frustrates me that this game and other similar types of games, it's got a creative mode where you don't have to worry about dying. You don't have to worry about your health, your oxygen, your food or water or anything, which is great. But turning that on disables the story. And I think that that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. So if I could tell them to do it differently, I would have liked to see them change that in the sequel. And unfortunately, so I finished the game and I started playing the second one, and it's the same way. If you turn on creative mode, you do not have access to the story, which is a large bummer. But there are some other features in the new one that are helpful. My favorite of which so far is that when you open up your PDA, it pauses the game, or there's a toggle that you can have it pause the game when you open your PDA, which means that I can actually read all the descriptions of all the things that I am scanning and not worry about running out of oxygen or things trying to eat me.
Oh, good.
It's great. But on the original, it did have it. I mean, there's not a whole lot of story there, but there's some, and it was interesting to see it play out. It was incredibly satisfying to build the rocket that you use to escape the planet, because it is really appropriately massively rocket-sized. So it was fun, and that was a part where I just didn't use a walkthrough or anything. I just followed the instructions it gave me, and each time you build a piece, it gives you the blueprints for the next piece, so you can go and hunt down whatever materials it's asking for. And that piece of it was really satisfying and fun. So yeah, I still always will recommend that game. And then I've just put in maybe a couple hours on Below Zero, maybe not even that much, just barely started it, but wanted to say that it is as gloriously beautiful as the first one. I appreciate, like I said, the couple quality of life upgrades, and it seems to have more story right off the bat. There is more voice acting, and the protagonist is a woman of color, which, I'm pretty happy about. So yeah, I've been enjoying it. Said haven't really seen enough to know whether it's any better or worse than the first one, but it's just as pretty, and I'm enjoying floating around and gathering resources and catching fish, watching weird alien penguins swim around.
Nice.
As much as you've enjoyed Subnautica, I do wonder if you would like No Man's Sky.
I mean, I have tried it a couple of times, but it's a big part of the allure of Subnautica for me is just that it's all underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the exploration and stuff is fine and it's fun, but really it's just it is immersive, and I just love it. It makes me feel like I'm in my natural habitat. I really wish that I had VR so that I could see if it was as spectacular as it seems like it could be in VR. But yeah, Subnautica, basically a game that was just aimed directly at me.
So another thing that is happening currently is E3 is back, and by back I mean it's a sequence of online shows. And like, it's really weird because if you did not know any better, you would assume the entire thing was run by Jeff Keighley, because the Summer Game Fest is essentially the thread that carries everything together. And that was a 4-hour epic on Thursday night, which is basically the Game Awards minus the pretense of the awards.
I didn't actually get to see it. How was it?
I mean, there were a ton of trailers. Yeah, so the big reveal at the very beginning is the new Borderlands game is not a Borderlands game. It is basically that one module from Borderlands 2 where Tiny Tina DMs a game.
Everybody's favorite module.
Game.
The best module?
The best module.
Best part of Borderlands, the best DLC for Borderlands 2?
Yes, basically.
So the DLC was very fun, but it was also very affecting because it was very well written.
And they don't have good writers? I mean, wait.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at, yes.
Yeah, so it is, I feel like it's really, I want to be excited about it, but also I liked Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep despite Tiny Tina. Like, I find that character insufferably annoying. But like, that one proved to me that with really good writing, you could make any character, even ones that I don't like, really, really compelling. But it was going off of a lot of backstory that was kind of important.
Like the entirety of the main story of Borderlands 2?
Yeah. Well, like the entirety of the main story of Borderlands 2 and a bunch of Borderlands 1.
Yeah, like, and I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how much Tiny Tina is even going to factor into it. Like, it's a fantasy looter shooter, but I don't know, like, Godfall wasn't a good game, and it was a fantasy looter shooter, so I'm not sure how this is going to work.
I mean, they are selling us on this is an extension of
Assault on Dragon's Keep.
Assault on Dragon's Keep. Like, they even include Butt Sparkle, which was the throwaway gag character at the end of that.
The problem is that it's kind of felt for a little while now like Borderlands is leaning on its previous successes rather than like
Borderlands 3 was an attempt to continue things, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't play it, so I don't know how good it was or wasn't, but I heard that it was not as good as it wanted to be, basically.
I'm pretty sure the only Borderlands that I've really heard good things about post Borderlands 2 was Tales from.
Right. That's pretty much what I've heard as well.
So, you know.
I mean, I played some of Borderlands 3 and it wasn't compelling enough for me to keep playing it.
So maybe they should be making more adventure games.
I mean, Telltale is also kind of gone.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's got Sam & Max now. There's a new Sam & Max on the way.
Yes, there's a VR Sam & Max game. I don't know why.
I don't know. I mean, Steve Purcell is involved, so it actually has a chance at being good.
Weird game that I did not expect at all. They're rebooting Metal Slug, but now it's a tactics game that's a roguelike tactics game.
I mean, you just said some things that sounded really weird, but also I'm interested.
Yeah, no,
right?
like
Same.
it's the Metal Slug art style, but like you have the 4 characters from Metal Slug, and it's a tactics game with turn-based tactical gameplay. It could be really cool. Like I'm interested. I mean, the game that finally has a pseudo release window that I have been waiting on for years is Lost Ark, and I really hope it's good. It is a Diablo-like game.
Bell.
What?
It's a Korean MMO.
I know, but look, I really want it to be good, man. I really want it to be good. I mean, the more and more I hear about Diablo 4, the more and more I question if I'm going to like that game. So,
I mean, sure.
I need another game.
Maybe this will fill that hole.
Maybe. I mean, Axiom Verge was shown again. Axiom Verge 2. Interesting. Axiom Verge was the Metroid love song game.
Oh, right.
It does.
It does some different stuff, but yeah, I mean, like it's basically like a love song to Metroid.
There are things I want to say, but they're kind of spoilers.
Yeah,
it's a new game, although very, very, very heavily inspired by Super Metroid.
Yeah, and it's rather hard. Like it really is.
That too.
So the interesting thing about Axiom Verge 2 is apparently one of the key complaints they had about Axiom Verge 1 is that, like, in a lot of cases, people loved exploring the world, and then they'd hit a boss that they could not get through, and they'd just, like, stall out, and then it would frustrate them.
Cough, cough.
So apparently in Axiom Verge 2, you don't have to fight a single boss to get through the game. You can just run through the boss arena and move on with your life.
Sure.
Also, your character is melee-based, but has like the ability to hack the encounters. So, like, you can choose to apply
the Castlevania side of the whole Metroidvania thing.
Yeah, it really is. So basically, like, you can apply a hack to the encounter so that, like, the target moves slower and attacks slower, or has less health, or it's going to be interesting. Tunic was shown again. You know, it's a Fox Zelda. And then the game that Kodra wants to talk about, I'm sure.
Horse Souls! It's
brought to you by George R.R. Martin. I mean, wait.
Yeah, this game is definitely going to actually come out at some point.
It has a release date.
It has a release.
January 21st, 2022.
Yeah. Okay, when we get to January 1st, 2022, and it is actually available to purchase, then I will believe it. Not a second before.
It like, I saw a comment on Twitter where it was like, this game is so steeped in the visual language and iconography of From Software's specific catalog of games that it might just be completely, like, impenetrable to somebody who's unfamiliar with that. Which I can believe, but the game looks sweet. I'm very excited.
Man, Schreier on this one.
What does Schreier say?
Elden Ring is the ultimate collaboration. From Software's haunting aesthetics, world-class design, and brilliant lore combined with George R.R. Martin's not saying anything about it for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about George R.R. Martin's work. I've never read the Game of Thrones. I never watched Game of Thrones. But all of the lore was like, oh, this is vague, a specific, like, you are a adjective that is like something of a diminished. You are the tarnished in this case. Like, you are the hollow in Dark Souls. You are the tarnished in this game. And you are seeking to come to a land that has been broken and either rekindle or put it out of its misery. Like, everything about this story feels very From Software. I don't necessarily feel like I see a picture of a story being told. And, like, there's a lot of lore in Dark Souls games, but I would not say they tell a particularly compelling story. Sekiro, on the other hand, I think tells a very good story, but Dark Souls and Bloodborne, I would not say tell the most compelling story. Or they tell a compelling story, but they tell it in a way that makes it very difficult to understand on cursory, on a surface playthrough.
I mean, my only comments about the writings with George R.R. Martin are not terribly polite, so... I mean, I might as well say it. I mean, he hasn't written anything good in 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, mostly...
That's not to say he hasn't written good stuff.
I mean, he hasn't written much in 20 years.
He wrote 2 more books in that series in the past 20 years.
Yeah, and they.
Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest. If the game that would excite me some based on a George R.R. Martin associated property would be a Wild Cards game. That's what I would like to see. That is the massive multi-author anthology series that started out basically based on a long-term superhero tabletop role-playing game campaign.
I do think the design of the first Lord that you see is pretty impressive, and I like it a lot. No, the real collaboration I want to see is From Software and Adam Poots.
That's Kingdom Death Monster.
I think they both have very similar design aesthetics for when it comes to designing monsters, but I do appreciate Adam's just pushing it out there a little bit further.
See, I'm on the extreme other end. I want to see From Software's Kingdom Hearts.
I kind of want to see that too. I want to see them take on some genre that is
I wasn't going to qualify that any further. Just let that soak in. Just think about that one for a moment. And I
ultimately
want it.
They can make another Armored Core.
Yeah, I would also like to see
Armored
From Software make another Armored Core, but
was Armored Core the game that was $160 and you got a giant mech?
No,
that was Steel Battalion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Armored Core was significantly better than Steel Battalion. I mean, Steel Battalion was a cool gimmick because you got a cool keyboard, but Armored Core was a sequence of pretty good games. Actually had interesting story going on too. I mean, for a really long time, Armored Core was the best Mech Warrior game.
Yeah.
We haven't actually talked about the Mech Warrior update.
It's true.
But it turns out that that's also a pretty good Mech Warrior game.
Yeah, it needed some tweaking, and then they released DLC that tweaked it.
Yep.
And
added a whole bunch of missing stuff.
Yeah. There's a whole conversation, it's probably for another show, about modding and how much modding is too much modding.
Yeah. I mean, I miss the ability to swap out engines.
Yeah, I was going to say, I miss the ability to mod. I would be fine if that game... Yeah, we could talk about it later, but I miss the ability to trick out engines and stuff like that, and try and figure out how I'm gonna really soup up a mech. Now there's ways to do that, but I don't know. We'll see. I feel like as we get more upgrades, it might be more impressive.
So today there were 4 shows.
That's too many shows.
There's the Wholesome Games Direct, which had 75 games.
Who is actually watching all of this?
I am, I used to watch these shows.
I'm going to go through the list of trailers later.
Sure,
I used to watch these shows. Yeah, I used to watch these shows on purpose as they ran, but now I start them late so I can skip around. Because it's too much stuff. Way too much stuff. Then Ubisoft Forward, then Devolver Digital Forwarder.
Oh boy.
Devolver Digital are actual trolls.
They were it was immediately following Ubisoft.
Yes.
And it was Forwarder.
And they may or may not have registered at the last minute to get that in.
Yep. And then Gearbox had a thing, which was basically just Randy Pitchford showing off that he knows some Hollywood stars from the set of the Borderlands movie. It was not good. It was real questionable. But I honestly, Ubisoft was kind of a very, very, very weak showing. And the weirdest thing, and one more thing from Ubisoft was that they're making a highly detailed open world Avatar game.
Okay.
And not Avatar,
Like,
the good one, Avatar, the giant blue things person, game.
Yeah, I think there'd be a lot of audience for like an Airbender game.
Yo, dude, I would
People would be
sign
all
up
over
day
that.
one. Yeah. You chose the wrong Avatar.
Nobody wants to be weird blue.
I
aliens
totally
with hair links.
like. Okay, so it's been a long running joke that Ubisoft's upper management is out of touch. So I can totally picture that somebody made a comment about that they should really license Avatar, and they meant the other Avatar.
I mean, James Cameron is definitely going to make that, another 5 Avatar movies, and like they're going to be the biggest things ever. Like it's just
I asked this on Twitter earlier because it's been like 12 years since the Avatar movie came out, and all I can remember is that nobody talked about how good a movie it was. They just talked about how cool the 3D special effects were.
It was very pretty. It was not very good.
Yeah, like 3D was the hot new thing, like this style of 3D, and they did an amazing job of actually incorporating the 3D into that movie. Like
it was sci-fi Pocahontas and or Dances with Wolves.
Yes, the story was not the draw.
But they are making another one, which apparently just finished filming last year. I thought it was going to be in development hell forever.
And there's a whole theme park thing at Disney World of it. So
look, James
somebody
Cameron has
thinks
a
it's
lot
good.
of movie, a lot of money, a lot of money. Like I was only half joking. I'm pretty sure James Cameron is planning another 5 Avatar movies. Last I checked,
I know of at least
what
2
he wants.
Sequels did Ferngully have?
Yes, he has signed to produce 4 sequels. So that would be 5 movies total.
That's way more sequels than Ferngully got.
Yes.
Yeah, and Ferngully was a better film.
We're the same film.
Yeah. And actually 2 and 3 have both finished completed principal filming. So yeah.
What?
They did the Lord of the Rings trick.
Yes.
But yeah, it's I don't know who wants this thing. I asked Twitter, does anybody care about Avatar? And out of multiple no responses, I got a single yes. So there's someone out there that cares. I just don't know if that's a great franchise to bank on, Ubisoft.
They may have just picked the wrong Avatar.
It would be so great if the backstory here literally is they licensed the wrong Avatar.
Do we know why? Like, do we know what Avatar they're picking?
I assume no. Like we've seen in-game footage. It's the blue fly around on pterodactyl things. Yeah, like it's
probably going to be a tie-in with the second movie.
I assume it's a tie-in with the second movie.
But we don't know what type of game.
It looks like a big
open world Ubisoft game.
Yeah.
So probably a Far Cry style thing.
There will be radio towers that you have to collect somehow, I'm sure.
Well, maybe somebody will figure out that they meant the other one, and then they can go get, the rights to that one. And maybe they can even get M. Night Shyamalan to help with the movie, or with the game.
I hate you.
They need to get the production team behind the Dragon Ball movie.
Oh, there you go.
It was so good.
Yeah. Get James Marsters to reprise Piccolo. It'd be great.
It'd be amazing. Actively losing listeners. So one game that came out from today that I thought was really cool was called Death's Door. So we have Fox Zelda in the form of Tunic, but this is apparently Crow Zelda, where you play a little crow that has a sword, and it's a really pretty 3D Zelda world. So
okay, I'm interested in this.
What's this
I
called?
heard this described as Hyper Light Drifter, except you play as the bird wizard.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like you're a bird Link,
and you're also not an asshole. Probably, maybe. Who knows?
Probably. Yeah,
we don't know yet.
Have you ever met crows?
I played Hyper Light Drifter.
Look, crows are fine to the people that they liked.
That bird wizard liked 0 people.
Yeah, if you make friends with crows, now you have your own crow army. But if you make them angry,
Like, I have always wanted to befriend a crow or a raven because I have heard that they bring you random things because you're their friend.
yeah. But what you have to worry about is if you accidentally create a crow army and then it starts attacking your neighbors.
I mean, so this is the thing that happened to me when I was a small child. There was a neighbor who befriended a crow. It would steal everyone's clothespins and take it to them. And it occasionally would strafe people going in and out of their houses, and it once landed upon my head. I was not happy.
So
apparently the solution to this is to get all of the neighbors to also give things to the crows, at which point the crows just become like a giant neighborhood watch.
So, like, I don't remember where I heard this story. I don't know if it was on a podcast or if it was on NPR. But this person, like, their daughter had befriended like this crow and would feed the crow, and then apparently the crow would follow the daughter around town while they were doing things. And they were like on the riverside one day, and the daughter accidentally dropped a stuffed animal in the river, and it got swept away, and they couldn't get it back. And then about a week later, the crow brought the stuffed animal back to the little girl.
Aw.
So, like, yeah, no, I absolutely want to be friends with the crows. I mean, I feed all the burbs in our neighborhood, so maybe at some point I'll befriend crows. I don't know. The only other real game that, like, I'm super interested in is Steel Rising, which is the next Spiders game. Set in an alternate reality French Revolution where there's automatons or automatons.
Did you bring this up before at some point, or
Yes.
did I just see this? Okay, yeah.
Well, it was like last year in the Microsoft show. It was no, it was. They're now owned by Nacon, the peripheral manufacturer, and there was like a Nacon Direct or something at some point. But it seems like your character is also some kind of a clockwork robot of some sort. So it'll be interesting. Like, I loved Greedfall. I like a lot of other Spiders games. They're all flawed in some way. I am really curious to see. Like, Greedfall was almost there. I'm curious to see if they finished their evolution with this game and are really all the way there.
King Louis XVI's automata army is terrorizing the citizens of Paris. I consider my interest peaked.
It looks cool as hell. It really does.
It's like Spiders game.
Yeah, this is another Spiders game. Yeah, it's these weird Baroque robots.
I mean, I'm here for the bonkers things they continue to try because they're noticeably improving every iteration.
I mean, the thing is, they keep trying really ambitious things. Like, and I'm there for that. And yeah, there's 2 or 3 things usually in each game that they don't quite get right. But they're trying, they're stretching. Honestly, like, today was kind of a disappointment. There weren't a lot of things that really super interested me. Tomorrow is the first joint Microsoft / Bethesda conference. There is no Sony conference. So we'll see.
Sony does directs now. I mean, wait, State of Play.
Also, games are backwards targeting the PS4 because there's not enough of an installed base for PS5.
Cough.
Maybe if you want people to buy games for your console, they need to be able to buy your console.
Would be nice.
Maybe if we could get rid of cryptocurrency, we could actually get computer chips and people could build consoles.
That too.
I will say, Ratchet & Clank, real nice.
Would love to play it.
Kind of hate you right now, Belle.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I was really hoping by this time of the year, that'd be possible to get a PS5.
It's
might
one
be
of
the
the
best
top
one
2
yet.
reasons that I want a PS5, and yeah.
Okay. Chicory. Like, I saw the trailer for this game. It did not interest me at all, but I'm interested to hear someone else's take on it.
Chicory is a Zelda-like where you have a paintbrush.
Ooh.
Or an indeterminate dog.
So Okami?
Yes, that has been
I mean,
pointed out to me a number of times.
look, I'm going to go out on a limb and say all of the games that I have ever played in my life in which you are an indeterminate kind of dog with a paintbrush and it's a Zelda-like have been incredible.
Yes, well.
I mean, it's a isometric style game, I think.
I mean, it's sort of top-downy, like Zelda-ish, like old Zelda-ish.
So, are you like, what is the interaction with the world?
The interaction with the world is painting.
I mean,
That is the interaction with the world.
Are you
Yes.
painting enemies then and turning them into friends?
There are not a whole lot of enemies. At
Okay.
least not so far. There was a boss encounter a little earlier, but there are not a whole lot of like enemies that I've seen so far. But you like use your paintbrush to solve puzzles, and you get new abilities. Like now you have paint that glows, so you can explore this dark cave.
Ooh.
Not that far into it yet, but really fun. I'm enjoying it, and it is the only Kickstarter game I know of that came out before its predicted launch date,
Wow, that's impressive.
because their estimate was August of this year. Granted, it had already gotten a fair bit of work before it went up on Kickstarter. It had shown up at PAX as Draw Dog in the past.
I also like the name Draw Dog.
Well, all the characters now are named after food, so the game is called Chicory.
And in keeping with Legend of Zelda, that is not the name of the main character.
It is not. Absolutely not.
I have been hoping to find some more less combative games to introduce Eli to.
This might be a good one. It's
This
got
does look like a good one, yeah.
co-op of sorts in that you can have more than one person with a paintbrush.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm watching the trailer for this game, and it looks very cheerful and optimistic. And also, you can attempt to reproduce a masterpiece that is a painting of two cats. This appears to be to like fix up a museum. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few things where townspeople ask you to draw various stuff, like a custom shirt design, which they will then start selling in the shop. I say selling with massive quotes, though. As far as I can see, there's no currency. They just kind of give you the first one.
So I take it someone has been playing the depressing sim where you keep people from freezing to death.
I don't know what you're talking about. Frostpunk is a perfectly great summer game
It,
for when it's hot outside.
2 people have been playing it.
About putting children to work.
I have not yet put children to work.
No, so I mean, yes, Frostpunk is pretty bleak, but the level of bleakness that you're hitting, it's upfront about. It doesn't like It is upfront about how bleak it is, and it doesn't, for the most part, it doesn't actually get bleaker, which is interesting. Mostly, like you can make decisions, but like so if you're not familiar with Frostpunk, it is it's been on my list for a while to try to play, but it's a city builder. It is a post-climate disaster city builder where you are trying to survive in endless winter.
Yep. The entire world is frozen, and you and some other survivors trek to find a giant pillar that produces heat that runs on coal.
Yeah.
And so hopefully you can get it running again and actually survive.
And so it's a city builder, but like it's interesting because I've been playing Frostpunk and I've been playing Mass Effect, and there is something that I remembered about. As much as I love BioWare games, there's something I remember about them. There is no reason to not always do the good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just hit the blue button. Just always. Just hit the. If you unless you are like actively trying to be a jerk, just hit the blue button. There's no downside.
Except when you're given the opportunity.
Only upside.
Except when you're given the opportunity to punch the reporter.
That.
Always punch the reporter.
Even if you don't, even if you hit the blue button on that one, it works out better in the end. It's actually really uplifting and wholesome. You can just hit the blue button every time. It's less satisfying in the moment, but it's incredibly satisfying long term.
I always hit the blue buttons because I can't bring myself not to hit the blue buttons.
And the thing is that in that situation, it's something that that's always bugged me about games that are like make difficult moral choices, because
very rarely do you actually have to make hard moral choices.
There's no choice there. There's the do the good thing button.
Yeah, the difficult moral choice is usually pet puppy or kick puppy.
Yeah. Well, and it reduces morality to a hat you're wearing.
Yeah.
Like it turns morality into an aesthetic, not something meaningful. And I feel like that I don't feel like that's good. And so it was interesting to see Frostpunk where like, so things happen. The course of the game is like a month or two. It's like the overall arc.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have children are a really good example, but like if you have children aren't going to grow up. You don't have enough time for children to grow up. So children are really important to people's morale,
mm-hmm.
and otherwise take up resources and space.
Yep, they are primarily a drain.
And so, for example, when my expedition team goes out and finds 30 children hiding in a cave, my population is 180. That's a huge number of people to suddenly take on. And it's like, okay, yeah, I'll bring them back because I'm not a monster.
Mm-hmm.
But like, wow, that's tough.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
and you can make choices to reduce the drain that those children are. But it's like you can have the children work. You can have them work only in relatively safe jobs, or you can have them work in all the jobs, which increases the chance that children die.
and
which
that's
is not a good thing.
Bad. Like,
I mean, children are just human veal, right?
You
Wow.
wow.
This is Frostpunk, not RimWorld.
You can also alternatively, which is what I did. I think what Tam did as well is you can educate the children and then have them become apprentices to either your medical staff or your engineers.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it's so much more resources and it's like so much more resources and effort and like limited space in your city to make that happen. But I feel better about it.
Yeah.
I feel like I did the good thing.
Yeah.
And
well,
it feels so much more meaningful because I had to work at it.
Yeah, and if you can pay the necessary cost to pull it off, then it's worth it. Like,
well, and it's really interesting because I couldn't afford to do that. The way I got that off the ground was I made a bunch of people work longer shifts for a week.
mm-hmm.
And so, and like, it was this really interesting, it turned into this really interesting, like, story arc where you've got the city that's like almost 50% children by population, where suddenly everybody capable of working is working like extended shifts for quite some time at their own personal health, at the cost of their own personal health, so that the kids can be educated properly and cared for properly, who can then pay it forward by working in the medical facilities
Mm-hmm.
to help all the people who helped them. And so it's this nice circle that's really satisfying. But
yeah, there's a lot of that of, like there are lots and lots of places where you can make choices one way or the other. And I would be very surprised if you could make it through the game only making the more cheerful, more hopeful choices and like succeed. Resources are just way too tight for that. So you got to figure out what trade-offs are you willing to make, and what can you do that won't just totally wreck things now, and hopefully, by the time some stuff pays off in the future, you'll still be around. You'll still be surviving.
And like I finished the first story arc because it's a city building strategy game, but it's broken out into scenarios. So it sets up like a limited time frame that you're focused on, which is cool. But I did get to the end, and boy, was it a nail biter. I was not sure it was going to work out, but it did somehow.
Yeah, I managed to get to the end. It was a little bit less of a nail biter, but I had restarted a couple of times to try and like get my bearings under me. and like figure out some of the plans of the game. I also might have gotten extremely lucky because I went into a city that was very dangerous and I didn't lose my crew, and then I got a very big resource benefit from it because I got a city that could generate I got an outpost that could generate 1 steam core per day.
Wow.
Which is big game, and let me build like 3 advanced coal plants and 2 advanced steel mills and a whole bunch of like wall drills, and was well in resources. I completely ran out of food. The end surprised me.
Yeah.
Everyone was very hungry by the end, but then it heated up again. The game definitely has a pacing thing that it is doing to you, though. And it's got difficulty spikes built in that you can see coming, and then you can deal with. And how do you deal with them? And oh, don't worry, the things that you are building had better be able to withstand worse difficulty spikes in the future, until you get to the point where it's time to weather the storm, and then you would either win or die.
But it makes for a nice... It's one of those things, one thing that it's structured like a 4X game without the expand. Like you're mostly just building tall in a city. And I like that it has an end point to it that you're working towards. Or you're trying to make your way through, because it bookends things nicely. But yeah, like one of the things that I've noticed it's true in a lot of similar games, is figure out the thing that you can exploit and hammer on that so hard so that you can snowball. You basically get your snowball going and just snowball as hard as you possibly can. And then once you're big, then every obstacle in your way is laughable because you got rolling so early and so fast.
I don't know that is not still sort of true here.
I think that it's true here in terms of getting your footing under you, but for everything, like Stellaris is a good example of what I'm thinking about, where if you find the right thing to lean super hard in, then you just become good at everything. And that's true of like Civ as well. You find the thing that's worthwhile that you can lean all the way into, and you can use that thing to carry you to victory in every other arena.
Oh, okay. I will agree here. I think that this game needs you to take a much more balanced approach because everything is important.
Yeah, well, and leaning too hard into one thing causes sacrifices that you cannot afford elsewhere. Okay,
so there are still snowballs occurring here. They're just different types. And they're not from, like, over-specializing. They're from being able to withstand hits without taking sacrifices to your game plan.
Yeah.
And not being set back in your game plan, meaning you are still ahead of the game plan, allows you to continue to be ahead of the next challenge. It's interesting. I feel like this game is very snowbally, but it's snowbally in the way that I think Through the Ages is snowbally.
See, it's interesting because I did have my game plan completely disrupted and still made it through because I could adapt. Like, I dropped the size of my town. I dropped the size of my city to like half at one point. I just turned off a bunch of things to recover from a devastating hit. And like, that's the kind of thing that I think is really interesting that I don't see in this type of game very often. Where like, well, I'm going to turn off all these buildings and turn off this heating thing to get my resource consumption under control, because I don't need all of these people to live in all of these buildings, and I don't have the people to run all of these things. So yeah, we can return to it.
I think that this is a very different, like, this is definitely a survival game where it is trying to pace itself in a way that keeps itself challenging despite you snowballing, despite you building up and being more effective. Like, the thing is, you have to be doing that, or else you are just going to get blown away by the storm.
Maybe. I actually didn't feel like I was excelling at anything and still managed to make it through the storm. Anytime I felt like I was getting too good at something, the game came down and punished me for it.
I would say that it's less about for me, this is a game about let's go put out. There are so many different fires. What is the fire of today that I need to solve? But it's like I know what the optimal steady state of my town looks like, and something's going to come and threaten that steady state. And so it's upon me to figure out how to resolve that. So or take the hit and figure out how to get back to that steady state as quickly as possible. It's less about being like I am specializing in any one thing, and more of I am like ending my day like I have 2 days worth of coal and I have 2 days worth of food. 2 days worth of food became very optimistic at the end. I have 1 day's worth of food. I'm gonna be able to feed people today. Like, this is fascinating because I oscillated wildly between I am super good at this thing today, and I'm going to use all of my gains today in this thing to keep me going so I can do the next thing tomorrow. It's like, is my number of sick people going up or down? Well, I can have a whole bunch of people being sick as long as that number is going down. Am I being able to churn out enough prosthetics for my amputees? Like, as long as I am solving problems, I am happy. And then things become even more of a problem, and then I had to declare myself the head of the new state religion. Oh, whoopsie. That's on me. The game definitely judged me at the end for that decision. I like how the game looks back at what you did and like criticizes you for all of your decisions.
Well, and praises you for a bunch of other decisions.
Well, maybe I was not being as nice as you were.
Oh.
Praising me a lot. It praised me for it. It said I adapted.
Oh, it said that I stuck by my values to make people happy for as long as I possibly could, and I never turned anyone away.
I never turned anyone away either. It did not praise me for that. But once again, I did institute myself as the head of a new state religion and might have had dissenters executed for going against the state religion.
That's
again,
probably less great.
That's on me. So I think you went the order route, right? You went the law. Was there like an option you could pick to like install yourself as a dictator?
Yeah, well, there was basically there was an option for establish horrific fascist law, and I never selected it.
Yeah.
It was rough at the end, but
I'm pretty sure I would have had no hope at the end if I had done that. And I don't know what zero hope does to you.
I don't know. Yeah, you're balancing between...
You're exiled.
Oh, do you?
You get sent out into the snow.
Well, it's a good thing that didn't happen because I was the head of the state religion, and the hope meter went away and became a devotion meter. And the devotion meter was always at 100. Everyone was devoted to me.
Nope, my hope was not high, and my discontent was very high. But I also, at the very end, I got an event that was, you need to make things better. And I'm like, I will make things better. Please, things will be better. Please be patient. And it was like, all right, you've got 3 days to make things better. And the sun came out on the end of day 2.
Nice.
It was, like I said, a nail biter.
It's a real interesting looking game. Basically Snowpiercer, but a city builder.
Yeah, like I really want to play some of the other scenarios because they look really different, and I'm curious where they go with them. And it's a game with a whole bunch of like neat little story vignettes about like what's going on, what happened, what are other people doing, how are things going for them. Mostly not great. Sometimes better than you'd expect.
I think that's probably all the topics we have time for tonight. I'm not sure if any of these other ones are like super short. I mean, I've already made you mad by talking about Ratchet and Clank a little bit. It might be the best one.
Well, we can talk about that next week.
Maybe.
Yep. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy the show, and hopefully they happen regularly now that I think things have calmed down a little bit. I'm actually blogging again for the first time in like a month. So,
Yay.
anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next week. Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.